Hello, sorry I'm a little bit late. I've got Ruth Daniel here, who's actually going to do the honours and introduce this next playback session we've got. Ruth?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Ruth. I'm the Chief Exec and Artistic Director of an organisation called In Place of War. So for the past 21 years, we've been using music as a tool to make positive social change in places affected by conflict, climate change and social injustice. So I'm here today to talk about our Earth Sonic project, of which this playback is all related to. This project started quite accidentally in the pandemic with the sound of a frog. So we were working with scientists and ex-combatants in the Colombian rainforest, and they'd been wanting to tell the story of the biodiversity of the rainforest in order for people to protect it. And they had these recordings of frogs and lizards and bats, and they wanted to engage the wider public in what was in the forest. So we took those recordings and gave them to people like Brian Eno, Onsulade, Cold Cut, and they made these beautiful pieces of music and this incredible record. And it really engaged people in what we have in the forest. So we released the record, it was really well received, and then we received a call from the president of the University of the Arctic, and he said, "We've heard this record, it's amazing. Can you do the same for climate change?" And it felt like a really big question and a big request. But we decided over the next year to have lots of conversations with artists, people like Bicep, Brian Eno, a whole range of people, activists, scientists. And what we realised is music is an incredible unifier. It's something that can bring people together, something that can tell stories and engage people in positive action. So what a better way to engage people in climate change and to reach people's emotions than through music. So we had this opportunity through these conversations to go to Greenland, and I was invited to bring a crew. So I thought, well, whose music do I love at the moment? And I thought, well, I really like Bicep. Let's see if Bicep want to come. And Andy from Bicep just happened to be really interested in Greenland and the Arctic and want to come out with us. So we took Andy, we took a Japanese beatboxing monk, we took The Guardian and a bunch of other people. And we spent some time there, and the original idea was, do we put Bicep on a glacier to do a show and show what we're losing? And that idea became really quickly very stupid. And we actually thought that the story here is the story of the Indigenous artists and their lives. And so we basically went to Greenland, came back, and Andy and Matt then wrote a body of music. We took that to Iceland, and 7 Indigenous Arctic artists with a producer called Matthew Deere from Detroit recorded their contributions to this music. And brilliantly, that music was returned to Bicep, and they actually deleted all of the music that they had made. And they just started from scratch with the vocals of the contributors to the record. And I guess you'll hear what happened next. This is an incredible soundtrack that really beautifully tells the stories of things like languages that we're losing. We have an artist that you'll hear today, Katarina Baruk. She speaks Umisami, a language that only 30 people in the world speak. You'll hear the music of Greenlandic rappers and all sorts of incredible Arctic artists. And I think really beautifully this tells the story of what we're losing culturally, but also what we have to fight for and the impact of climate change, and hopefully will inspire people to go out there and take some positive action. So it's been such a pleasure. I'd like to say, it's been a pleasure to work with Bicep. They are the most amazing artists we've ever worked with. They have given so much of themselves to this project, whilst always sitting behind the Indigenous artists. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy what you hear today. So thank you for having me here.
No problem. And I think, without further ado, we're going to play, I think it's 4 or 5 other tracks. I can't remember what we're doing now. But we're going to play some of those for you now, and then we're going to invite Mat Karmil, who mixed this, to talk about his work in Atmos. Well, that was fantastic, and thanks to Ruth for introducing it. The frog thing does make sense now. What Ruth didn't mention, actually, she talked a little bit about the fact that there's a film. So this is the soundtrack to the film, to the documentary, which is as part of that is that how Dolby, we first met you guys, and how we first met Matt. because you wanted to come and work in used our screening room in Soho Square because there was going to be a showing of the film where you did a theatrical mix of the documentary. So this is the soundtrack. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the film and your work in that as well?
Yeah, so there's several versions of it. Like you say, the theatrical version, which is obviously which has dialogue. It's just over an hour long, and then there's the DSP version, so the music-only version, which we heard today.
Fantastic. It's an amazing record and it's an amazing project. Tell us a bit more about yourself, Matt.
I mix records for lots of people. Working in Atmos, stereo. I make music of my own and have produced bits and pieces of pop music and stuff over the years as well.
Okay, cool. I want to get my questions out of my pocket.
Okay.
We've heard a little bit about this project, but let's just get a bit deeper into sort of how you got into all of this. When did you first sort of start working in production and engineering and all of this? What sort of started you off?
I started off in London in my very early 20s. Was just working in sort of pop music. I've been DJing a lot and was making beats, and then started to get into the studio scene, making. I play guitar and play a lot of instruments. So it was just sort of dabbling, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, across lots of records.
Across all genres?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I focused my work a lot more towards electronic music in my 30s.
Okay.
I moved to Cologne and became absorbed in minimal. Yeah.
But you're not in Cologne now, whereabouts?
No.
So you're UK based?
UK and Norway.
Yeah.
I split my time between the two.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I understand the Atmos room that you use for most of your Atmos work is in Norway?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, some of it
Okay.
When I'm not gifted the lovely time by you guys.
Fantastic. So, in terms of, let's get into the sort of the equipment you use. We won't get too nerdy here, but what's your DAW of choice?
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools, and in terms of the music that you make, do you have loads of synths? Do you use a lot of in-the-box stuff? Have you got a studio?
I split it. I have a studio in the Cotswolds in the UK as well, and I split. I love equipment, of course, but I travel a lot and I can't take it all with me, so I tend to use the moments that I'm with my equipment to kind of capture something, and then have stems or files, and then sort of use various places, studios. When I find myself in front of a Fairchild, I'll use that.
Might as well use that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've always armed with a lot of stems of things, just in case. Yeah.
And so, the artists that you work with, Bicep, how did you get involved with them?
They approached me and asked if I'd be interested to work with them, which I said.
On this project, or
previously? I've done the Chroma series as well. So I've been working with them for a couple of years now.
Okay.
I've done the entirety of that in stereo and Atmos, and then the stereo and Atmos for this.
So as an artist yourself, is it sort of take that hat off to work with other people, or how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I think obviously I don't want to put too much of my sound into a fully fledged and developed artist like Bicep. It's not for me to lean into it too much.
Yeah.
So I think finding they trust my aesthetic, I'm sure, so they know that I'm sort of in line with what they want.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance between trying to make sure that I do the right thing for someone's I'm executing someone's vision as well as possible. Ideally, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, it's interesting talking to somebody who's an artist as well as a producer and engineer who works with other people. So maybe it's different when you've got each of the different hats on. But when you do you set yourselves any kind of rules or limitations, or do you have a process in order to help you get from A to B, or is it kind of an anything goes kind of scenario?
It's very much like an artist by artist basis, because some people want me to do a lot and some people want me to do not so much. Yep. And so I think that developing those relationships with artists and finding that trust and sort of workflow is really the main thing. That, so not to do too little, but not to overstep, not to radicalize something that doesn't need it, and but also to find, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater is quite important and delicate.
I mean, I guess that kind of works with both Atmos and stereo, but where Atmos is concerned, at what point did you get into it? At what point did you start experimenting and thinking?
It's been a few years now. I can't remember trying to think what the first Atmos mix I did. So it's definitely been 4 or 5 years, I would say, something like that. Yeah, I think that just people starting to request it more and more. Like I have a 5.1 studio in the Cotswolds, and no one's ever asked for a 5.1 mix. But yeah, the Atmos thing started to come up, and obviously I had to immerse myself. It's a good word to use.
Good pun.
And there you go. Yeah, I had to sort of. There's quite a learning curve to start with, especially then. I think like the access now is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I've been at Dolby for about the same amount of time. So when I joined, the tools were very much the renderer was separate to the Pro Tools and all of that kind of stuff. It's integrated now. We won't get too into detail. We can do that later on. But so you went through that sort of that learning process and that learning curve. You enjoy it?
I love it. I really do. It's so the big thing is depending on what source material, what you're trying to accomplish in a way. Like if you get stems from an artist and they want an Atmos mix and all the effects are printed into the stems, there's a difficulty or a split and try and work out where and how to make an effective spatialization. And binaural is the other thing that's a big, like making sure.
We'll come into that in a sec, I'm sure. But actually, picking you up on that point, when you get stems that have got baked-in reverbs and things like that, when you hear something like this, which I guess you did the stereo of as well, did you stereo first in this scenario?
Pretty much in parallel, I guess. In some way.
It seems like you're doing everything in parallel on this project.
There's quite a lot going on. Yeah.
But, I mean, you can sort of tell by the depths of the reverbs and the things that are in here. I'm guessing you use some immersive reverbs, so you can sort of hear some things, or with things that are split across at least. Yeah,
so Bicep also work with hardware a lot, so a lot of the things they will capture. So if it's if the thing has got reverb or they're printing from a desk or something, it's got reverb.
It's baked in.
It's done.
Okay.
And I use some like unmixing software to do that sometimes. I'm not sure I did it on this project, but sometimes if stems are very dense, like
you can get in there and split them out again.
Yeah, and it's amazingly effective.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, I mean, in terms of where you've done 4 or 5 years of it now, but I mean, the way you see Atmos now, what do you think is possible? What is possible with Atmos that's not with stereo? I mean, the way that you're sort of developing the way you're working, what do you see in the future? What does it mean to you? I suppose working in it.
I mean, I love the fact that when I'm working in a room, I'm working in theatre rooms sometimes, so not quite on this scale, but when I'm working in a 714 room. It's a lot easier than stereo in a lot of ways because you have a speaker for the thing, so you can put the guitar over here, the synth over here, whatever, and it's the space, and you can hear where this is coming from. So it's possible to have sort of quite dense, like full mixes, which you have to check how that comes out when it's put down to one speaker or whatever.
Okay, I mean, one of the things that we often find is, people say, well, how can I listen to Dolby Atmos? So the fact that you're checking, when you're in Norway, you're working on a 714 system or whatever. Yeah. But ultimately, I mean, this is available in all the streaming services, and we're going to hear another track of Mat's at the end of the session. And that's something that can go into the streaming services and can play through soundbars, smart speakers, automotive. There's 30, I think, car brands that are now doing Atmos. So things in the last few years have really ramped up. And even to the point, if you've got a laptop, you can open it up and you're actually listening to a virtualized Atmos mix rather than stereo. So as time goes on, we're getting closer and closer to the fact that you can leave the studio and do the old-fashioned thing where you used to put a cassette in the car and have a listen to it. I am that old. But we're sort of getting to that point now where you can actually hear your Atmos mix on consumer systems before you go there. So hopefully that's something that's going to be useful to people that are in their studios. And the fact from everybody here, you can if you've got an iPhone, you can turn that sideways, and you're at that point you are actually listening to the Dolby Atmos mix. So I'm not going to necessarily ask about other people's Atmos work, but when you hear a great Atmos mix, what defines it for you if you're listening against somebody's stereo mix or your own even?
I mean, for me, it's when it's done. It's because you can do anything. You can put the hi-hat in the back or whatever. You can do whatever you like. But really, when it's done well. Personally, listening to some of the jazz reissues, which have been re-roomed, are amazing. I mean, that's that actually adds a real depth and sense of presence to listening to something. It's not a stereo thing, and in that. In that acoustic music and sort of where it's not studio trickery, that it's really like real life. Like, so you actually have that experience.
I was with somebody a couple of weeks ago in Spain who had done the Miles Davis thing, and they took 3 speakers and put it into a studio that was kind of like the same studio that they were in the first place. That was a 3-track recording, 1 track for each thing, and a speaker for each thing in the room, and they captured that as if they were there. It's fantastic.
Those experiences are just incredible. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's obviously something that was recorded 50 odd years ago, 60 years ago. So I mean, obviously, catalogue is old music is one thing, but moving forward, and I'm guessing now that you've been doing it for working in Atmos for quite a while, I'm guessing even when you're producing or composing as an artist in your own right, you're sort of thinking ahead of how will this sound in Atmos. And I think we're finding that with lots of the producers and engineers that they've done their first few Atmos mixes. And now they're going, well, next time I do a project, I'm going to perhaps capture more room or whatever. Is that something you're already doing by default?
Yeah. My personal music, I make sort of quite idiosyncratically, because it's a lot. There's very few stems in my music usually. It's very concise. Yeah. So again, some of that unmixing stuff, like some of the tools that I use for that to spread it around, and the quality of reverbs and how it space stuff, more towards my ambient stuff. It works really, really nicely. Absolutely.
So you're thinking differently, a bit more differently.
Yeah.
A bit more about it. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, we talked about headphones a little bit, and we haven't got too long left, so I don't want to labour that point. But how have you found the listening experience with Atmos on headphones, and maybe the working experience on headphones?
So, I mean, this is really important because a lot of artists will only listen. Not everyone has a 714 room. Surprisingly. So a lot of the approval process and having people listen to what I've done to their music will be in the binaural. So the binaural has to really be good. This is not an also thing. This is definitely core to my workflow.
Actually, the reason I was a little bit late coming onto this session was because I was chatting about this subject just only half an hour ago. But what we've been listening to in stereo for the last 50, 60 years, well, it's kind of obvious when you think about it. Those 2 speakers that are in front of you that are designed to be 60 degrees apart, we've been taking those speakers and firing them directly into our ears, which makes no scientific sense whatsoever. It's just that we're all used to it. So when you start listening to immersive music on headphones, you have to be placed into some kind of space. We have these things called binaural metadata settings, which allow you to set that space to being off, which is as stereo, which is super important for really clean, dry vocals, so that you can get a dry as a bone vocal sound should you need it. But then we've got near, mid, and far, which are 3 different sort of spaces that you can work within. I think working with those, and then all of the other tools that you're working with reverb that have built up over the years, you can then build a dynamic headphone mix, which is actually different to what comes out in the speakers. And when people, I think that's what I find when I speak to producers and engineers, is once that clicks for them, they work out how to do things. It's essentially delivering 2 mixes at the same time. So yeah,
it is, but they're very connected as well. And
yeah,
it's I mean, one thing I would say about working in Atmos is it's really interesting using front to back rather than panning. Because this does artists who are composing and working in stereo will set the stereo themselves. Yeah. And so you can do a lot with you probably heard it in here, the front to back is more where I'm interested in doing this depths.
Well, particularly when your stems, your source material are stereo, because it is the phantom image. So if you're moving just those things backward and forward, that can be very effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of nearly out of time because we're going to play one of your tracks as well. I suppose we've maybe covered some of it, but just a simple, quick question is, have you got any advice for people who are thinking about working in Atmos for the first time?
I think there's a thing. It depends. Like if you're working for the first time, perhaps you're working in headphones and not on speakers. Yeah. And there's a thing of not stopping and starting so much. It's quite important because it breaks the reality of you hear this. You don't put your head in and out of a room this reverb thing. The brain is marvelous at processing how reverb works and giving you the cues of where. Sound is there, and so you can't really. You have to actually listen to a bit of it. You can't just press stop and start because your brain processes this differently.
That's an excellent tip. Thank you.
There you go.
Well, have we got any questions from the audience? We've got quite a few people here, so we can open up for a few questions if anybody's got any. There's a microphone kicking around somewhere. Or any questions about the project that Ruth could put up? There you go, there's a question there.
How did you approach the LFE, and how much information did you send to the LFE channel?
On this one, quite a lot, because Bicep like quite a bass-heavy sound. It's like I'm somewhat torn. I don't always use it at all because I can find it a bit overpowering in some spaces. And also you can save it for really impactful moments. So it really depends track to track. You know, I don't use it as the main support for bass. I use it like to accentuate like exciting moments usually.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can't see anything.
No.
No? No. In which case, we're going to move on and finish up on one of your own songs as an artist. So do you want to introduce that?
Sure. The track's called Lush, and it was released on House Music a couple of months ago. Yep. It's one of those ones which isn't too many stems, so I had to think about how to present it in Atmos. It has the LFE trick. There's only a couple of moments where it's being used. So I'm quite interested to see how it sounds on this system. Yeah.
Great. Well, please thank Mat Karmil for joining us today. And thank you to Ruth for introducing the projects. It's a fantastic thing. Hopefully there's a film that should be doing the rounds at some point. So, that will be hitting some cinemas, I think, at some point soon.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.